right, we want to practice putting these logical relationships that we're covering into practice, practice putting them into practice as we walk through these. So far we've covered the logical relationships of series, progression, alternative, action manner, comparison, negative positive, idea explanation, question and answer, ground, and inference. And now I want to take a look at what do we do when we have a little bit of a larger passage. All of our examples of the individual relationships are about as simple as we can find in the text, just to give an example. But what happens when we have a little bit longer passage, a couple of verses, and more propositions stacked up on top of each other? Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 9, verses 3 and 4. Every moving thing, God tells Noah, that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. So apparently, Adam and Eve, prior to the fall into sin, were given all the plants, the fruit, the vegetables to eat. And now, after the flood, God opens the opportunity to also kill and eat as a consequence of the judgment, as a result of the judgment that has happened after the flood here in Genesis 9. So let's begin, after we've read the passage, to identify the individual propositions here. First, he says, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. So we have the first sentence is one proposition. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, period. And first key word, potentially, pointing us to a relationship and separating the propositions. As I gave you the green plants, comma, I give you everything. And when I see this word as a key word for the relationship of comparison, I start looking for, is this being used in that comparative way with another proposition or not? Because there's examples of, even in one of the examples we looked at in an earlier video, where the word as was not being used as a comparative proposition or to set that off. But here, I think that's what's happening. As I gave you the green plants, and what's implied here is an as-so construction, which points us to that relationship of comparison. As I gave you the green plants, so we could insert that without doing any damage to the meaning of the sentence. In fact, it clarifies. As I gave you the green plants, so I give you everything. So we have one proposition here and a second, I give you everything here. Then we have the word but, so a relationship of alternative. You shall not eat flesh with its life, comma, that is, another key word, pointing us toward a relationship of idea explanation, where a relationship between propositions is clarified to expand on the meaning to possibly the whole proposition, or maybe just even one word in that. You shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. So let's list these off as separate propositions. Write these out as separate propositions and begin to identify the relationship between them. I've gone ahead and done that. I've written these out as I've identified these propositions, and we have 5 propositions that we need to identify the relationship between. And so we want to label these 5 propositions. Verse 3 begins here, and then verse 4 begins with but. So we have 3a, b, c, and 4a, b. We can name those propositions. We can draw a line down the left side. That's how I like to do it. And then draw one arc over each proposition. so that we can look at the relationship that is between them. So the first sentence is our first proposition. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And so we have possibly a series, relationship of series here, but we have a sentence in 3b and c that we want to arc the relationship here between these two propositions before we connect it with either what's come before or after, because we have separate sentences here. And so the relationship within BC, and as I gave you the green plants, so, we said this is an as so, the so is implied, I give you everything. And so we have a comparison relationship here in 3BC. And then let's look at the relationship of 4AB to arc the relationship within that sentence before moving on to identify the relationships between these three separate sentences. So 4AB says, but you shall not eat the flesh with its life, that is, its blood. So these words, that is, form our key words to point us to the relationship of idea and explanation. What's being explained here is this idea, as God is speaking with Noah, you shall not eat the flesh with its life. And he has a very concrete definition of what that life is here, that is, its blood. So this is a very concrete understanding of what this means, and so there's an idea explanation. Let's go ahead and label that idea explanation. Draw the arc over that. So now we have our three sentences arced. Sentence 3a, which is its own proposition, BC, which is made up of two propositions, and 4ab, which is made up of two propositions. So then what do we do first, second, and third? That's the challenge when we start stacking up propositions in this way. Which relationship do we arc first? Well, I'll start at, I tend to start at the beginning. That's where my eye goes. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, and as I gave you green plants, I give you everything. So what I'm going to try first, and this is where it's helpful to be doing this on a whiteboard or a chalkboard or on a piece of paper where you have an eraser, because there will be times where you'll want to go back and erase this, but don't feel bashful about trying something and see how it works out. We're looking for clarity. Remember, we're not trying to make a perfect diagram, and I assure you, you won't the first time, but we're trying to have a growing understanding of the text, a growing understanding of God's Word. So what I'd like to do is first identify and define this relationship right here according to this keyword, and. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, and as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. So this I will identify as a series. And that brings us to this word but. Every living thing shall be food for you, and as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. Those go together. But here's an alternative. Here's something that he's saying not to do, an alternative that's being drawn. But you shall not eat the flesh with its life, that is, its blood. He wants them to drain the blood from the animals prior to eating the animal. So we have this word but, which points us to the relationship of alternative here. And then we'll draw an arc over all of the smaller arcs to bring these propositions all under one arc, to say that there is, this is the defining relationship of what is being communicated here. And that's how I would arc Genesis chapter 9, verses 3 and 4.